Well, welcome back to Face the Nation, and we begin with CBS News senior correspondent John Miller, who has quite an interview tonight on 60 Minutes with Mike Morrell, the recently retired #2 official at the CIA. John, what strikes me in your interview is just how complex and delicate the CIA sees this effort to arm the opposition to Assad. Morrell says that we have to give the rebels enough support to force Assad to the negotiating table, but not enough to destroy Syria's army.
Syrian military and the institutions of the Syrian security services to defeat al-Qaeda when this is done. And every day that goes by, those institutions are eroded.
So, John, here's what strikes me. This is a war. Things are changing by the minute. Is it really realistic to think that you can calibrate the level of support that precisely?
Well, that is the question. You've heard about precision strikes with missiles, but how do you do precision strikes with whom you give either money or arms to? And that's just because it wasn't complicated enough, Bob. In Morrell's view, there are 4 wars going on there. There is the war of the people against a dictator. There's the war of Sunnis versus Shias. There's the war of the proxy war in the shadows of the Saudis versus the Iranians for dominance in the region. So the idea of providing arms or support to one side and knowing that you've got the right side, or in the cases that weapons are often traded, they won't end up in the wrong place. He who doesn't study history is doomed to repeat it. We were chasing Stinger missiles we gave to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan to fight the Russians for years after that was over, and there's 20,000 of those floating around since the fall of the Soviet Union from their side, so it is complicated.
Well, he clearly laid out why the CIA thinks this is so important for the Syrian army to be able to crush those forces. Listen to this.
Those areas could eventually become the kind of safe haven that could pose a significant threat to us. They don't right now. They pose only a regional threat. But the places that I'm worried about in terms of ultimately becoming a safe haven that could pose the kind of threat that al-Qaeda posed to us pre-9/11 is Syria, #1, and #2, Afghanistan, if the Taliban were to get a grip on that country again.
So here is a situation where, the question to elicit that answer was basically what keeps you up at night, and the idea that we could have fought in Afghanistan for 12 years with all of those dollars and all of that bloodshed, only to find that that was to deny al-Qaeda sanctuary and that they reemerge in Syria and maybe Afghanistan again, is a long way. Throw in the additional factor of chemical weapons, and Mike Morrell and others believe that Assad will never give up his chemical weapons. They'll give some back, they'll hide some, and if al-Qaeda takes over, they can end up with that too.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John. And a reminder, you can see all of John's interview tonight on 60 Minutes.